See?
Jeff,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was amazing, actually. Totally unexpected, totally a surprise. Did not expect that at all, but that was very, very cool.
Well, I asked you if you were ready, and then I told you you weren't.
I guess not. No, that was very, very cool though. I like that.
A blast from the past. Hey, guess how many episodes we've done for this YouTube thing?
What? How much?
10. So this is our 11th. We've reached 10.
Really?
Yes. And of course, we always forget to tell all of our listeners how to contact us.
Oh,
So
on the
that's the
Gmail account.
DJ Ron Show at gmail.com.
Which
That's
which interest
that's DJ
interesting
Ron Show at gmail.com.
which stands really for Dana, Jeff, Ron at gmail.com.
That is correct. Yes. This is no longer the where's that in the Bible with Ron and Jeff. My
But
wife made the
that
two.
intro music, I don't know. That intro music, I don't think that should go away because that's actually pretty good. Although although the boosters though, the boost,
I see some
um,
conflict. You're having some conflict.
no, well, tonight that was cool. That was very special. That was actually very nice. That was a good surprise because that music, I always really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. A little early or late birthday present for you.
Yeah, no, that was good. Christmas. Christmas is closer. Or
Well then,
Halloween. Actually, Halloween. Halloween. Trick or treat. Thank you, Jeff.
well, I know your birthday is within 6 months of today. I know that.
Trick or treat. No, not of today.
Yeah, within six
No.
months of today.
Uh, really? Do you know that?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, because
When's my
the year is only 12 months long, so it's either 6 months is ahead of us or 6 months behind us.
So what month is my birthday then?
It doesn't matter. There's only 12 months in a year, so it's either 6 months from now or 6 months before now.
Oh.
See, some math wizardry right there.
Okay. I'll go with that. I'll do that. So we didn't really talk beforehand.
Don't let anyone in on the fact that we don't prepare for this show, Ron.
Well, that's kind of the fun of it, though, Jeff. I mean, preparing for the show and having something scripted and written out, that's kind of boring and it comes across as boring.
And the reality
But I
is
think
this our preparation is life.
our preparation's life, our preparation's our experience, our preparation is to simply come together, have a discussion,
Not
dig a
watching
little.
Dodgers games.
Well, no, no, hold on, hold on. Um,
That's part of the preparation is not watching Dodgers games.
well, you have to sacrifice some Dodgers games, yes. But doesn't mean you have to sacrifice all of them. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice all the game tonight. What if tonight, Jeff, I watched some of the Dodger game? Would that surprise you?
Hey, we all cheat on our diets. At least that's what I hear.
That's true. That's true. So,
Hey,
speaking
I got
of,
some good news.
yeah, what?
There's a rumor that Ned might be coming around to talk about rape culture.
Oh gosh, that would be awesome actually. Like
Not
tonight?
not not tonight. Not tonight.
Okay. Okay. But he will be on.
It's in the works, but there is a rumor that he would like to come
Good.
on and chat
Good.
about that.
I'm looking forward to that actually. See, um, last time we got to talk, I that was the first time I'd ever heard Ned talk. Although many years of very little communication, but every once in a great while in that forum, he would chime in. Like, but even what he said was very limited. So I got to hear him in length for the first, excuse me, for the first time um, that night that we did the show, and that was cool. That was very cool.
So he might he
Uh,
might he might swing back around. Also,
well,
we need to
Ned.
get other people in the works. We got a lot of people out there who we need to talk with. That's
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
no, absolutely. I am open. I want to hear, different opinions. I want to hear different points of view. I want to hear Jeff ask some questions.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. I
Okay.
like just curiosity when he likes to be curious.
Now, do you have something you'd like to talk about, or are we just gonna bore the
Well, no,
bejeezies out
no,
of our
yeah, no,
listeners?
I didn't have anything.
Huh.
I didn't have anything. I thought maybe recapping real quick what we did last week. I think, do you agree on the conclusion that we had last week, Jeff? Or no? Do you remember?
I think I might remember. We didn't. I don't know if we. Let me see. I think I may have said something that was somewhat like a conclusion, which was that Dana's got an answer, and there's also another answer, which is the consent culture answer. Everything is consent. But my feelings on it was that, practically speaking, there's some issues with hoping everyone is in the consent world.
So
Um,
did you hear what I said though? I mean, did you hear what
Remind
we
me, because
can
I'm
did
so.
you didn't hear what we concluded with? We concluded with that we recognize that yes, what you said is true and it exists in certain circles within the culture, but it's not this prevalent thing that you're experiencing in every circle in the culture.
Yes, and I certainly agree with that. Like, I don't experience this really at all, actually. Let me think. Um,
Oh,
hard for me. It's hard for me to
maybe it's the
remember.
beard. Maybe it's the beard, Jeff.
Not that I don't experience um, the results of that culture, but I mean, I don't. I'm talking about observing in my environments around me. Let's see. It does. It's definitely. I'll give it a strong nod at my work.
Hey,
Definitely
let me ask you,
strong nod. Definitely a strong nod in my social circles.
do you have a problem
Um,
with cougars coming after you?
Cougars. I think you're confused. The Cougars are going after the young men, from what I
Well, no,
understand.
I was wondering, well, yeah, but you as a young man in relative terms.
I'm not an old. I mean, I'm not a young man. I have gray on my beard. I think if I've heard this definition of cougar correctly, by definition, it's an older woman going after a younger man.
Yeah, yeah, so do you have
So
that issue?
do I have an issue with? Explain. I don't. I'm not a younger man. Are you thinking that I'm so young and ravishing that I would have an issue?
Well, yeah, because think about it. You're only going to be getting better and better for the next several years.
No, that's for normal people, not cougars.
No, that's for males. Remember we discussed that?
Yes, yes, I'm saying that's for normal women. Normal women are finding us more and more attractive. But the cougar is a special type of woman. They're out of the norm.
Oh,
They don't appreciate me for my beauty.
really? So, like, when you say, I guess let's define what a,
All right. I'm at the Urban Dictionary. That's the place to go for something like this because we're talking slang.
okay.
And at the Urban Dictionary, a cougar is an older woman who frequents clubs in order to score with a much younger man.
Who frequents club.
The
That's
cougar
all.
can be anyone from an overly surgically altered wind tunnel victim to an absolute sad and bloated old hornmeister to a real hottie or, and I don't even want to say the rest here. Cougars are gaining in popularity, particularly the true hotties, as young men find not only a sexual high, but many times a chick with her feces together. And I inserted a word for another word. So another second definition that's the most popular. That's 16,000 likes on that definition.
Hey,
6,000 dislikes. And
hey.
then the next on the list is an older, experienced woman who happens to find herself in a sexual relationship, committed or not, with a younger man. She is not necessarily a slang term here, slut, nor is she desperate. She offers sexual experience and is open to new experiences. So that's the tamer version of the cougar.
Hey.
She simply wants to have fun. So there you go, Ron. I don't think I fit the category of cougar prey.
Okay, listen.
I'm listening. I don't know what that was. Is this a sound of you giving up on the show?
No. No, was no.
Was
No,
that the
no.
sound of you opening Halloween costumes? I mean, I know there's something with you in Halloween. I've been noticing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's been Jeff. I mean, come on. No, I
Are having a problem with cougars?
no, no, I sincerely wanted to know if you were, because there tends to be a we talked about differences between men and women before, right?
Uh huh.
There tends to be a big difference between the cougar community, right, and like the older guy community,
Okay.
right?
I
Yes.
I I
Yes.
don't know.
No.
I look. You're so out in the realm that I don't even know anything about. That I think you should just do all the sharing. I'm not really sure where you're going with this. I'm not sure how this relates to anything. I'm really at a loss.
Well, no, I don't think you are. I think you like to I think you like to pretend in certain instances that you are, but I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about my true self? I'm not really
No, I'm actually no, I'm
talking about the
joking a
fact
little
that I'm
bit.
150 years old.
No, I'm joking a little bit, but no, there is a difference. There is a difference. Just, and I don't even want to discuss this tonight, really. I mean, necessarily, but there is a difference between in the culture, older men and younger women, and older women and younger men.
A difference in
That's all.
feeling about it.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. That, and I
All
again,
right, that's
I'll,
all you needed to say. All of this
okay,
was
cool.
to
Yeah,
to get that out. All right,
yeah,
all
okay,
right.
that's
Wow,
it.
that's very insightful. For those who managed to listen through the first 10 minutes of this, I'm sure they gained a lot by listening to that insight.
Yeah. So anyway, um, last week, last week, I said that those things existed not the entire culture isn't guilty of it. There are certain things, the rape culture that we talked about exists in certain circles, not in every circle. And you said yes, that you agreed with that. Yeah? No? Do you agree? Yes
Um,
or not? I mean, and if you don't, if you
I
don't,
have to say yes because like I said, within my job, it's safe to say that there's zero. And within my within my circles, it's zero. Um, but I definitely know it exists, as in women are objectified. It's my understanding um, I haven't been to a club in a long time. Um, but I'm guessing that they're still doing the same things there. And I continue to hear stories of women who were inebriated or drunk and someone took advantage of them. That's happening someplace.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with that. There is an aspect that you brought up last week, and I'm going to tread very, very lightly on this, but I'm going to say that it does exist. No, it doesn't define any situation, but there are times when the victim is not so much a victim. And again, I think that's a very sensitive kind of aspect of it, but there are those instances. It's not every instance, and I don't believe that's the first somebody should come to. Um, Nor do I believe that the opposite is the first conclusion that somebody should come to. I mean, you should. Do you agree that you should hear out the story, the facts? You should be presented with evidence before you can make a judgment or a decision on what actually happened in a certain situation. Is that
Well,
important to you?
I would say, given the seriousness of what we're talking about, um, that would be the case. As I imagine most people would agree with that. I mean, I deal with much lesser crimes as at my job, and I would still take that approach, meaning that
But
we generally want to make sure um, that we're pursuing truth the best we can.
so yeah, yeah. I mean, what do you think then about all the stuff that floats around and people seem to be arguing about not not believing evidence and just simply believing a victim? That seems to be like really big in the news right now. There's two sides of this, like with the judge, Kavanaugh scandal, whatever you want to call these things, right? So in the news, like he's accused of rape, back when, he was in high school. And the accuser, made this claim, and the evidence that was presented was very difficult to believe what she had said. And yet a lot of people took this side of saying, hey, regardless of what the evidence says, we believe her. So, and it's even, hashtags, um, what do you think? I mean, that
It's possible they wouldn't
it's not
say it
like
just
that's,
the way
it's
you
not like
said
that.
it.
It's not like that's a made up thing. That's a very prevalent, that's a very in your face kind of topic that everybody sees for the most part, if you're on social media.
Yeah, so it's not like I was going to say I don't know if they represent themselves exactly that way, but I think the question you've asked is clear, and I think that I think I have an answer that is reasonable. So let me give my answer. See what you think. Um, Given this is like an epistemology question, right? It's like philosophy. How do you know what you know? How do you know anything really? And I really do think it actually is that it gets to the nature of that, or the
Hmm.
nature of this is how does one know? And in this case, and in these cases, it at times can come down to the word of one person against another. And that would be in cases where there's no corroborating evidence. So it's just one person says this happened and another person said something else happened. And so in the world of knowing, you don't seem to be able to know. Um, and so the solution that I agree with our culture has been to have an axiomatic solution to this. And that axiomatic solution for all of our amazing listeners, axioms are things we just accept and then we use them as foundations of reason. The axiom that the United States culture has chosen is that one is assumed innocent until proven guilty. And that choice to accept that as the fundamental belief means we start off with people as innocent, and then in a situation where it's he said, she said, unfortunately, um, you're gonna have to assume that the one person's innocent based on that assumption. The logical conclusion is if you don't have enough evidence to show it, even if it happened, that's the thing. It's very important here. In the real world, it may have actually occurred. But if it's only one person's word against another and there's no other information that allows us to come to a conclusion, with the presumption of innocence as an axiom, you would just say, well, we're going to have to, even if they're guilty, we can't know it, and we're going to have to assume that they're innocent. I believe that is the actual solution.
Yeah, no, that seems accurate to me. I mean, um, go back 100 years ago, not even that long. Go back 40 years ago, and some of the crimes, some of the things that the people are guilty of, right? Some of the evidence that people are able to present today in light of technology and everything we have available. A lot of times, like DNA cases, I've watched several um, documentary type shows and films where people have been um,
Exonerated.
exonerated exactly based on DNA evidence and new evidence presented in a case, which has been amazing. And it shows you though, it shows you why and here's the thing. There's enough of them, I believe. I believe them. And there's a lot of evidence that says, hey, sometimes people are accused of things that they did not do. And that needs to really be taken into account because again, there are enough of them, at least what people have been presenting on TV, that say that there's big flaws in convictions of people and the things that they've been found guilty of. Big flaws.
Yeah. No, and it worries me a bit to imagine there's someone out there that's not aware of both sides of this. That there's someone out there who doesn't know of all these stories of people who were wrongly convicted of a crime and the DNA evidence that exonerated them. It
Yeah.
worries me if someone's not aware of the times in which, specifically referring to rape, people have actually rescinded their statements and said that they were not telling the truth. Not just proving them wrong, but they actually said, I made it up.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and even
There's,
though
there's two
now,
sides of this.
Yeah, and the crazy part is that all this stuff is a difficult thing. How do you navigate all that? I mean, do you go to probability? Do you say, well, how many of the cases did the person admit they were lying? And then you say, well, that's only two out of every 100. Therefore, and we're going to assume that it's very unlikely this person is telling a lie because most of the time they're not. I mean, how do you solve these kinds of things? And I really think the answer is you have to start with the axiom that somebody's innocent. And until you can bring enough evidence, and here's the key, even if in the physical real world they're actually guilty, but until you can provide enough evidence, um, you have to begin with that assumption, um, and without enough evidence, you're just guessing at that point. You're going to break the assumption if you start to say people are guilty because you just really think that they must be.
Well, I agree with that. I really do. For a lot of reasons. But I mean, if you just take what's available to you as far as information and you see the difficulty that we have in being able to believe people's testimonies and convictions and that. Yeah, that's why I agree. I don't know. I don't. I mean, that was well said. Um, I think that's a good perspective on it. I really do.
It's an axiomatic solution, whether people realize it or not. And the axiom is given the beginning point is we live in a world in which we don't know all information. We don't know all things. And in particular, there are situations that arise where one person says A happened, and the other person says not A happened. And so now,
Well,
without
I know
enough,
you're.
without
I
enough, without enough information presented with those scenarios, our current axiom is that you just assume the person's innocent unless you can provide enough information. And sadly, that means
well,
people get away with stuff.
hold on, hold
But
on, hold
you
on.
know,
Yeah, no, no, that's true. That's absolutely true. But as much as we want to call it an axiom, and that may be very true for a lot of people. But I think you're making a. I also think though, huh?
I'm listening to you. You might be getting some echo.
I'm not getting echo. I'm like getting like brushing on the phone, like the phone is somebody in somebody's pocket.
Oh, that's because I have the phone in my pocket.
Oh, so anyway, the the argument that you're making is very logical though, and I don't think you can get away with that piece of it. It's not like you're saying something that, well, you just have to believe what I'm saying because that's what we're choosing to believe at this point, and it doesn't make sense. What you're saying makes sense, and what you're saying holds a lot of weight as far as there's validity in the fact, excuse me, let me rephrase that. Sorry. There's validity in the argument that you're making that evidence needs to be presented in a case. And you need to have something to give somebody to call them guilty. It's not I don't feel like, and I could be wrong, and correct me if I am, but I don't feel like what you're saying there is completely unreasonable and you have to take it by faith. I think what you're saying based on the information that we have available, I think what you're saying is actually a very logical argument. It's a very logical statement. It's a very logical approach to this subject based on, again, based on the information that we have available to us. So it's not unreasonable. I feel like here's why I'm saying this. I feel like when you say axiom, right? I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that means, hey, I'm gonna say some crazy stuff, and this is just what we believe because we have faith in it. I could be wrong.
When I'm talking about axioms.
Yes.
Um, so without getting, can we toss that aside for a second
Yeah, but
and
I
just
did.
just leave axiom. Axiom has different meanings within different contexts.
Yeah.
But the meaning I'm going with here, we could talk more about it, but is that we both accept. So so whether it's believable or not believable, all those other things, those are interesting things to talk about. But when it comes to moving forward with something, we say here's something we're both going to accept and move forward with it as a basis for reasoning. That's the way I'm using it. So in this
Okay.
difficult situation, if we can all
Did
just
you
accept that, then it allows
you
us to
did
move forward.
under well, I was gonna say, did you understand what I said? But yes, you did because you addressed what I said. So, um, no, that's a reasonable response as well.
I'm reading it on Wikipedia. It's the presumption of innocence. It's the principle that one is considered innocent unless proven guilty. It was traditionally expressed by the Latin maxim in I don't know Latin, so I uncum meet brabati quae deceit non qui ne yeah, I'm guessing that's not the Latin pronunciation.
I don't know. It sounded pretty good, actually.
And then that's a quote:
That was
"The
real
burden of
good.
proof is on the one who declares, not on one who denies."
Well, again, that's a difficult position because you know as well as I know that there are probably plenty of cases out there where somebody has protected. So, let's say, something has happened to somebody and they have decided that they're not going to say anything. That happens a lot for whatever reason, right? I mean, you would not, well, I don't want to say a lot, but it happens. It definitely happens. Um, More than people probably know about or acknowledge or want to acknowledge. But that kind of thing does happen. No doubt, right? I mean, you would agree with that too. You're not saying that that's not a real possibility in the
That,
discussion that we're having.
that what's not a real possibility?
That there is a real possibility that there is a true victim,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That
Someone is really
that
guilty.
somebody that really has been violated, right? And there's the other guilty party. So the person making the accusation or not making the accusation, but being truly a victim, right? And just staying silent for whatever reason. There's plenty of those out there as well, right? I mean, there's plenty
People
of
who just don't
they don't
bring
bring it up.
yeah,
Yes. Yes,
yeah, they don't
no.
press charges. Yes, of course. There's tons of examples of people who don't press
So
charges.
that's another side of this though that's pretty important.
It's an element of it. But I think we're specifically dealing with cases in which somebody has accused somebody of something else publicly. And in that case, what do you do when there is not enough information beyond just the two people's testimonies?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. Yes. I I I I don't know how you really decide that other than if you have somebody's You have one word against another, and you don't have evidence for either one, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's the
the
difficult one, and I'm going to
yeah.
suggest that you have to. Unfortunately, this means sometimes people who've done horrible things may not be found guilty, but the alternative exists. Somebody could be found guilty who didn't do a horrible thing. So given the varied circumstances of this world, the solution is we assume they're innocent, and you have to you can't do anything until you have enough evidence to really show they did something. Now, I just learned this is Article 11, Section 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations, and it reads, everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty according to the law in a public trial at which he has had all the guarantees necessary for his defense. So there you go. That's these articles. The Constitution in itself is entirely an axiomatic sort of thing. We declare all of these rules governing how we're going to work with each other. And so here's the UN making, whether they call it axiomatic system or not, but that's what it is. It's another set of declarations for which we can then reason with. And in this case, there's the presumption of innocence stated clearly in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Yes. Yes. Um, where are we on time, by the way?
Um, I don't know if time exists.
No, it doesn't actually, but um I like this topic. I like this topic, but I'm gonna jump real quick.
Okay. Before you
Yeah.
jump, did
Yeah.
you know that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights guarantees everyone a right to life?
No, I did not know that, but that is
Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person.
yeah. No, that's very cool actually. I did not realize that.
Want to hear another one?
Yes.
Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. Motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance. All children, whether born in or out of wedlock, shall enjoy the same social protection. But those little guys in the womb, hmm, hmm.
Are they still not
Anyhow,
are they still not protected?
um, somehow we're still, even in the year 2018, classifying these little people as non-human, non-persons.
Yeah,
But that's
so
another topic. But I'm just saying,
problem.
it's in here.
Well, that's problematic. That's something at some point we should definitely address, right?
Of course, Article 1, the very first one. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with
Hmm.
reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. So that's the opening line on Article 1. But notice it says born. So we still don't, at least as the United Nations goes, think of these children within the womb as uh, receiving of those rights, unfortunately. Anyhow, I just had to kind of spit that out there randomly. Well, what's up? What's up? Even though this is an interesting topic, what else is on your mind? Did I put you to sleep? Are you no longer with us? Maybe you need to unmute your mic.
Oh, I was, yeah, no, sorry. I was talking to you, and answering your questions, and you could not hear me, just like I am now talking.
Uh,
I was
uh-huh.
talking and I was muted and you couldn't hear me. Anyway,
Yeah, I guessed that's what you meant by saying you were talking.
yeah. So, um, no, it's a great topic. I wasn't fully prepared for it, and I don't think that the time that we have is going to be adequate. Although we could, I mean, if you wanted to
No,
dive into that,
no.
but I don't think the time is adequate to discuss that topic. That could run weeks, because of the different directions and the different arguments that you can make. Um, I just
Yeah,
think,
no, it's both a simple topic and a complex issue.
yeah, no,
So
it's a very
simple in
complex
that
issue.
I dare say, while we make it complex, we're talking about little people.
Yeah, no,
That's all. And you
no,
just
no,
can I give the answer before we move on?
yes.
All right. The answer I don't think the world's ready to accept. And that is that the solution is you treat the little children in the womb as children in the womb, and you treat their mothers as their mothers, and we just figure out how to best care for both of them. That's where the conversation lies. That's where the hard thinking needs to be uh, focused upon. It's just how do you care for these two people in a way that is best for all? That's all. That would be a hard and difficult question to answer, but we're not even there. We don't even acknowledge one of them exists.
N- Well, no, that's exactly it. I think though, it's important to maybe consider having a discussion and why we acknowledge, if you want to call them the unborn, those outside of, the mother's womb as compared to those inside the mother's womb, why we consider those, the same thing, that there really is no difference. Um, so,
Anyhow,
but but
another
but
day,
even
another time.
but even then, though, there's a deep discussion that you could have, because there are different some different stages.
I
Um,
I can't stop, Ron. You know this whole axiomatic thing.
yeah.
So what I'm saying is, it would be so interesting to get, let's say, stereotypical liberal on one side and a stereotypical Republican on the other side, and you both began with the axiom that this was a child within the womb, and that both the child and the mother are valuable, and we need to care for both of them. So how can we, with the assumption that they're both equally valuable people and we want to care for both of them, how can we best meet the needs of both? And that would have a different, I would guess, response from the so-called liberal side, and different
Well, yeah,
response for the
I guess.
so-called Republican side. And they would actually have I think they could have a lively discussion about how do you best meet the needs of these two people in a way that is fair and so forth, and budgets and laws and all these other things.
Well, I I think, um, I think you can have the discussion, in an honest way. You can bring both sides up. You don't have to be, um, you don't have to lean. You don't have to bring in any real strong, perspectives from either side. You can make the argument, but you don't have to do that from an emotional point of view. And that is, you might lean on one particular side of the argument, whether it be pro-life or pro-choice, right?
All right, you're missing me
Uh,
right now. I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna bulldoze you, okay?
okay.
What I just said was, what if you began with the assumption you ended this whole debate? Now, I dare say it's a silly debate. This whole debate about whether this is a person and all this junk. And you just began with the assumption that there's two people involved here. They are going to be connected together for at least 22 weeks, if not 9 months. So you begin with that assumption. So you're completely revolutionizing this whole conversation. You're trashing the old one and just saying, look, everyone agrees there's two people involved here, one
Yes.
and two, and one of these people is going to be wholly dependent upon the other for a period of 22 weeks minimum. I only say that because my niece was born at about that. So let's say 25 weeks minimum, around 9 months max. This person will be dependent upon that child. So how do we, as a culture, as society, as lawmakers, best deal with this situation? Now remember, I'm not having the debate anymore about this, that, and the other
I'm
thing.
gonna give you an orgasm.
Oh man. Wow. Okay. Yes.
Um, when it comes to murder laws, right?
Yeah.
What you're saying, that assumption is already made. That's accepted. Clearly based on what happens if a mother's murdered with her child in the womb.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yes. No orgasm here. I'm sorry that you thought that that was gonna get me
No,
all
I
excited.
well,
Okay.
it's a figure of speech, but that's the reality of it though. We do make that assumption in many cases.
Yeah. So there's an example for you. It's actually a really good example. In that case, for whatever reason, I don't fully understand. I don't even partially understand how it is that those laws even exist, given our culture still says it's okay to kill that child if the mother chooses so. But in this case, the mother chooses to not kill the child and someone else kills the child. In that case, that child is considered a child. But if the mother chooses to kill the child, it's not a child. And so it's very ripe for what the heck is going on here. But I can understand the reasoning on the other side, kind of. But putting all that aside for a second, yes, Ron, this is an example where people are treating the child within the womb as a person and they're just deciding, how to deal with that particular crime. And that's what I'm talking about. So, for example, let me be stereotypical here. If both sides suddenly agree that this is a child within the womb and deserving of the rights of just any old regular person, and that we have a unique circumstance for the mother and child because the child is wholly dependent upon another person for up to 9 months. Um, Given the stereotypical ideas of what a liberal is, you might expect them to have more welfare programs for the situation, funded by the government to provide for all the needs of a mother during this transitional time in the case that she doesn't want to um, raise this child. So that would be to me an example of how a stereotypical liberal might respond and say all mothers should be provided paid leave for the 9 months or less of time in which they are required to care for this child against their will.
I would
Whereas a
also
Republican might say, no, that's ridiculous. And that's the stereotypical Republican side. But I'm just saying
right.
that would be what I mean. People discussing how do we best deal with the unique circumstance where one person is wholly dependent on another for up to 9 months.
Right. Right. So, and I think it's a good thing to consider the little one in this particular situation. because the child, regardless of the mother or the father's actions, right, and whatever that situation is, whether it be, you know, you're on another path and you know you don't have time for any, you know, raising of children, things like that, right? I mean, there's extremes in on all these cases,
Many,
all
many
these cases.
situations. From just
Yeah,
simply saying, I don't want to have a child right now.
right, right. From simply making that decision, and
I know someone who doesn't like children.
yes,
And
yeah,
he outright says
no,
it. And so if in our current
and I
culture,
know several.
since it's acceptable to end the life of a child, in our current culture, if this person were to accidentally impregnate their girlfriend, I am certain that they would end the life of that child. So that's their personality type. But given that personality type, I'm suggesting in this alternative universe where we assume this is a child's rights like anyone else, you would need to figure out what do you do in situations like this where you have someone who clearly doesn't want to raise a child.
Well, I'm gonna lean on the fact that our laws present in many instances the child as a person and a human being. And so I'm going to lean on that side of the argument for this particular discussion, if you don't mind.
Did the laws do basically say that?
The laws do support, many laws do support the unborn child as a human being, and they make
Yeah,
provisions for that child.
I would say laws exist. I wouldn't say many, but I don't know what you're
Okay.
talking about. I
Okay.
think I accidentally pulled you away from what you were saying though. Basically, I got you distracted a little because I was talking about some of the examples of circumstances of people who don't want a child. But
Yeah, but
anyhow, so what
it's
do
a
you
good
do when
discussion.
somebody doesn't, no matter how the mother became the mother, and there's so many circumstances, and there's also so many different ways that people respond to that. And then what do you do?
Well, I think if you are considering what laws are available at this point, and what people have decided that is fair, including people on the more conservative side of things. Even the most conservative arguments still lean in kind of that middle ground, where they say, look, we're not trying to take anybody's choices away. I think we're just trying to bring education, different perspective, and different alternatives to the table. Um, so I think at the end of the day, that's where the discussion ultimately should go.
Is to
Well,
there's
I don't,
people you're saying should go, or like there's people who are adamant right now that this is ridiculous from the get-go that a mother should be able to in the life of her child all if they want. So
yeah,
are you saying in the context of the assumption that I made?
no, I'm saying the context of the assumption that you're making, right? That, and I'm going to say for the sake of this argument that our laws already say that what you're saying is true.
uh, I
So,
again, I don't know what you're saying. I know that, for example, um, help me understand here. Are you suggesting that the amendment to the United States that says, oh, I mean, let's say, forget the amendments. Let's say, um, no, the amendments. Anyways, everyone's guaranteed life. Are you saying that? indirectly is saying everyone in the womb.
No, no, I'm saying that I'm going to go back to my original argument. I'm just going to start at the very basics. We can go there if you want, but let's start at the very basics. The very basics is that if you murder a woman that is pregnant, you're looking at double murder.
Yeah, but that's one minority law. The majority law is not that. So that's why I disagree with you. While that it does exist, that most of the law is saying this is not a person and that you can in their life.
Battery. You can go a lot of directions with this. Abuse. There's all kinds of things that you can go with this. It's not. Yes, I no, I agree. It's not. It's not the more prevalent stance that is out there and people take. I think people. It seems like in our culture, at least, right? And I could be wrong, but it seems like there is a more of a pro-choice kind of stance. That's more widely accepted. Would you agree or no?
Are you talking about people's opinions on the topic in general?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's
would you agree that?
I believe
Huh?
it's pretty close over the years. Still remains close. Currently, I believe it's a little bit more pro-choice than pro-life.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that said, I if I heard you correctly in the beginning that you said let's just assume that this child has all these rights. Let's just start from there. And
Yeah,
and all
that'd be
and
really nice.
and all I'm saying is I think you can start there with some laws that are already in place. So I don't think I guess my bottom line is I don't think your argument again is this unreasonable position. I think what you're saying is very reasonable that we can start there, but we not only can start there, but there are many accepted laws that support that position.
I know they exist. I just don't. I wouldn't say there's many, but okay.
Yeah, well, whatever. Few, many, a handful, whatever you want to. But they do exist.
So,
Anyway,
um, the
uh,
current polls are in. I just ran a poll, and it's 50% pro-choice, 44% pro-life.
yeah, that seems reasonable. It seems about
Well,
accurate.
I don't agree with you actually. You want to know why?
Why?
Because in 2009 they crossed, and from 2009 to 2010 there was more pro-life than pro-choice. Then it dips down below for just a little bit in 2011, but then it's back up again to more pro-life. 50% pro-life, 41% pro-choice. It does another crisscross quick, but then mostly pro-life. So in the last approximately 10 years, it looks like we've probably been more pro-life than pro-choice. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. I
According to
didn't.
Gallup.
I'd like to. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I wonder
Not the
if there's
feeling
any
you get,
very.
huh?
What's that?
It's not the feeling you get, huh?
No, no. Well, it's not just the feeling again. The discussions that I've had would suggest a little bit different. Just in general, I mean, my my interactions with people tell me that a lot of people lean on the pro-choice side of things.
Mm-hmm. So it fluctuates more than you may realize. It's a divisive issue in that over the years it goes back and forth. All the way back to 2001s, they're crisscrossing back and forth. So it is one of those 50-50 issues.
Did Dana ever wake up tonight? Did she ever?
I woke her up a few times. This truly is the Ron and Jeff show at this point.
Yeah.
It's
No, it is.
serendipity that wait a minute.
Well,
Wait, did I hear something?
oh my gosh,
Oh gosh.
she is
It's
there.
been hard.
My goodness.
I'm sorry to rat
It's
you out there,
well,
Dana, and telling our fans that I had to wake you up a few times.
Yeah. Well, I really was trying to kind of make a word picture with my sleeping because why am I so tired? This is the heart of the issue, right? Is
Yeah, I see.
having a baby and parenting
Unfortunately,
that baby is really hard, tiring.
yes,
Do you get that that's what I was doing this whole time?
I
Ron,
see.
uh,
you
So
got it, right?
that you were attending to your child.
no, no, no,
No,
no,
I
no,
was
no. Try.
sleeping
She cut out a little bit, but she was
to
sleeping. You're cutting
show.
out, Dana. You're cutting out, but she was sleeping as a word picture of how raising a child is consuming of you.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't understand that, but
No,
that was
I
my contribution as I was
no.
passed out in various places around the
I
house,
I think I
sleeping.
did. I think I
You
did
didn't get
understand
it?
it. I think I
Do you get
did
it
get.
now though?
Yeah, no, I did get it.
Because while you guys are talking and pontificating, I was showing how this is such a weighty issue, and it's not just an argument, right? This is a something when a woman has a child, it does take over her whole life. Sometimes during pregnancy, you deal with exhaustion and all sorts of effects on your body, and then even after, it's just I'm really tired sometimes.
Well, all of that is extremely valid. Nobody, I don't think, you have 8 children, Dana. Um, there are very few, I think, that can speak about motherhood with that kind of authority. To be honest,
Yeah, and so there's my creative contribution, and having done this 8 times. On a side note, Emmanuel Macron got into some trouble with his statements about women like me not existing. Right? Did you hear that?
who who did?
And man, the French president, he was speaking, I think about the fact that African, or his opinion that African
Um,
women need their
Unfortunately, you're breaking up.
fertility
I don't
because
think we can hear
he
you.
states woman
Ron, you can't
who
hear her, can you?
oh mm,
I got the gist of it you said, but can you repeat the beginning? The African or the French president, right?
yes, so he was speaking, trying to show why African women need help with both education, I guess, and also birth control. And his statement was that something like, show me a woman who, being perfectly educated, would choose to go on to have 7 or 8 or 9 children, basically saying
Oh
that
goodness.
doesn't happen. He's saying,
I
that type of woman doesn't exist, right? Because if you had access to education and you weren't ignorant, why on earth would someone have 7 or 8 or 9 children?
I
And
guess
so,
he doesn't realize again. Very few people can speak with the authority that I think that you can, because I think it's important with that statement. That's a little upsetting, because I know quite a few in the category that are educated women and have chosen to have multiple children. So
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm a little triggered.
Well,
Whoa! Wow.
and not you're not easily triggered, right, Ron?
Not really.
Yes. Well, you're in good company. Some other educated women were triggered, and there was an outpouring of women showing photos of their families, larger than average families, and the women would also talk about their.
Hello. Hi.
Uh-huh. Yes, I'm
Are
a
we back? Are
wonderful
we back?
contributor.
We are. I'm sorry. I don't
Oh,
know
that
what
wasn't
happened.
my fault. I thought that was my fault.
No.
I thought
Everyone
I
got
hung up.
dropped. The whole show just every got dropped. I think it's the deep state. We're saying stuff
This,
right now. Oh, they're
yes.
shaking them up. It's shaking them up. They just don't. They're at their keyboards. They're
Hmm.
listening in, and they just don't know what to do. Sometimes they get a little trigger happy, and they just
Oh
boom.
yeah.
They gotta shut us
Deep
down. But
deep
Yes,
state.
yeah,
but they can't. They can't shut us
well,
down,
no,
right?
no. That was just a
So they
thought.
can.
It was a thoughtless moment. They can shut us down, but then they thought, "Yo, shoot, that's right. We can't do that." But you get to them, and then they boom, shut you down. But then they're thoughtful, and they know let us come back on.
Triggered.
Yeah, they got triggered.
Well, first they came for Alex Jones, right?
Yeah.
And
So
now I didn't
so do
say
you,
anything.
quickly though, I mean, um, and this is an honest question. Do you believe that they came after Alex Jones? Do you believe that they're trying to shut him down? I mean, really?
Well, they are
Uh,
shutting him
They
down.
they
no, I
did shut
know,
him down.
I know,
They
I know,
did,
but
right?
yeah, no, I mean, it's not a joke, but do you believe it's for the reasons that he says it is, and a lot of people do?
Oh, I stopped following that particular um, news issue. I don't think I really paid attention the last week or so, but so I can't speak to what's current. But I mean, before it seemed like not the deep state, but the platforms were very, very much shutting things down. Which
Yeah,
I guess it's really they need to figure out who they are because they've been allowed to exist in the past because they claim they were platforms, right, and not publishers. If
right,
Twitter and Facebook then choose to kind of um, select certain types of speech, um, and then also not publish certain types of speech, then they're going to be um, subject to the laws that news media companies are subject to. So they have to figure out who they are, I guess. So I don't really have I don't have a problem with them dropping people if they are going to be a more of a news media company, right? Instead of this free speech zone, which I think they were claiming to be in the past. Right? Isn't that it?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So they could be publishers. That's cool. It seems like they both are more like publishers, right? With what Dorsey has claimed, and those Google documents too. They seem like they're more interested in policing speech, which
Yeah.
maybe there'll be some other platform that will be more open ended, and then that can gain more popularity.
Well, I was just going to say there's actually some up and coming platforms that people are apparently gravitating toward, that are unregulated in the sense that, speech is free. You can,
Whoa. That's almost like
Mhm.
walking around outside. That's dangerous.
Yeah, very
That's
dangerous.
true.
Very
Yeah.
dangerous.
Well, maybe exploring the universe is going to have to go there, because we're starting to feel it now, right? With that, or even maybe what happened with me and my sleeping wasn't just a word picture. Maybe I was drugged. Have you
Maybe you
guys
were put
thought of
under a
that?
spell.
Yeah, what a
Maybe.
coincidence that it just happened to happen right when the show started.
Yeah. But
You've
in
had fires.
serious,
You've had sleepiness.
yeah.
You've had Jeff.
Oh, hey.
But I guess going back to the
Subverting
original. Oh,
important
what?
discussions and topics.
Yes. Yes. But if I were to run back to what seemed like the original discussion that I had slept through, which was about the right to life, and what is in the womb and what should we legally do about it. Um, I can oh, was that it, right? Wasn't that the
Well,
discussion?
we kind of drifted one way and the other, but I just want to frame it right. What I was suggesting is it would be really interesting if we all just began with the assumption that this was a child within the womb. And with that assumption that this child is going to be connected with the mother for up to 9 months in a way that she has to is forced to care for this other person. And so it'd be interesting to me to watch how both sides, the so-called liberals and so-called conservatives, Democrats and Republicans, would argue about how to best care for the mother and the child.
I have a good one.
Deep
I have a
state.
good one.
Oh,
Oh,
it looks like we powered through. Yes, that will continue on.
This whole caravan thing, have you guys been following it at all?
Somewhat.
yeah, the caravan that's going up towards the United States border of people, thousands of people coming to the United
Yes.
States border.
Yes. So I haven't, what's interesting, I haven't really heard much about it. Have you?
Oh yeah, I've heard. Yep. What in particular are you interested in
You did
about
steal
that?
Dana's thunder, by the way. But go
Well,
ahead.
I haven't heard much from either side. I mean, I've seen more from the conservative side of the issue,
Oh.
saying that, essentially this isn't some spontaneous kind of immigration toward the United States, that there are, mostly military aged men waving flags, making criticisms of the president.
Hmm. Oh, I haven't heard that angle. I've just what coverage I did hear was basically people were saying, I think Pierce Morgan had an opinion piece. I think he might have even mentioned the migrant, whatever you call. I thought of the word crusade, and mentioned it as being a very, very much a negative for the Democrat position, like that it's kind of like an advertisement for Trump's policies, because I think, meaning that, it seems just, this very chaotic immigration issue, like it's almost like a glaring advertisement for Trump's wall. So in his piece
Right.
today, and Pierce isn't on the conservative side of politics, but he was just basically really coming at the Democrats to, I guess, get their act together, because it seemed like Trump was winning on all sorts of fronts, and the migrant crisis was one of them.
Well, let me ask. I mean, based on what I said before about the conservative arguments that I've seen, would it seem reasonable to say that, yeah, that's kind of weird? There's like 5,000 to 7,000 people just spontaneously marching toward the U.S. border, crossing Mexico, not stopping in all these places that are really socialist kind of havens, right? Or supposed to be. I mean, what's really going on? How are all these people marching all these miles, surviving? Where are they sleeping? What are they doing? What's the situation? I mean, is it unreasonable to say that there's more to the story than just an immigration push?
Well, I guess at that point you definitely would need more information, right? That's a whole nother universe to explore. I mean,
No, not
we can
really.
do it. We're not. We got our spaceships, though.
We got our fleet.
So do you think it's just really spontaneous, like 5,000 people from Honduras are marching towards the U.S. border just like that?
Well,
Oh,
I think we can't. I mean, I think we don't know wrong.
yeah. Doesn't
How is
this
that?
happen every year, though? Like, I just heard it mentioned that almost like nearly every year there's a wave of people who do this. It's just bigger this year and getting more coverage. Have you
Yeah, I've heard that
encountered
too.
that?
So what's the situation though this time?
Yeah, I again, I'm not the space cadet to talk to you about this. Do you think this is a funded? What do you think? What are you getting at? Like it's a military operation? Do you think
No,
it's like
no, not
subversive?
necessarily. Not
Do you want to
necessarily a
join up, Ron?
military.
Are you going to go
Not
down there and join
necessarily a
them?
military operation, but yeah, definitely funded. Yeah, absolutely. Look at it.
Well, yeah, I really I wonder about the logistics. I think I saw or heard about, there's women with children. Like, how could you even practically
Well,
do that for
yeah. Think about it.
that long?
How far is that border? How far is that border? How long would it take you to do that?
Yeah. So, um,
Real question, Dana. That's not a yeah. That's a serious question.
how long would it take me?
Anybody, think about it. You with two kids. Forget eight. You with two kids marching towards the U.S. border, thousands of miles away.
Yeah, it would be crazy. Uh,
Well, they might use buses, Ron.
well, so do you think the marching is just like a photo opportunity? And then they're
I
back in
don't know.
buses.
So
Let's get in
what
our
are they
buses.
doing? What are they doing? How are they doing this?
So you're saying that it's kind of odd that there's over 1,000 people are marching for how many miles is that, by the way? That's like that's not messing around, isn't that? Is that over 1,000 miles?
Yes.
They're gonna do 1,000-mile march?
Well, let's call it 1,000. I think it's over, but let's call it 1,000. Even let's call it 800. Think about that for a minute.
Wait, it says the trip from San Pedro to San Sula to the closest U.S. border crossing in Texas is approximately 2,000 miles. It requires people to pass through inhospitable borders. People walking and hitchhiking know that when and if they reach the U.S. border, they likely will not be allowed to cross.
Well, so Ron, you've looked into this in other years? Do they just flow into to
Well, they're
across the border?
significantly smaller. That's one thing.
Yeah, and
We're
maybe they
talking about
get
a
by.
caravan of people, of thousands and thousands of people.
Thousands and thousands would be 2,000. What's the
I think it's
Five to
7 to
seven.
10. I thought it was
Oh,
7 to 10.
7 to 10. Wow.
But
Even more than I
this is
thought.
just I don't got numbers at my fingertips. Why does this issue get your goat for some reason, Ron?
I mean, you bulldozed Dana. Dana was about to say something. She's the mother of eight, speaking to an issue about children in the womb, and you bulldoze her in something that I thought was related to what we were talking about.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna tie it together. Like, is
Like
the
these
child
people
in the
are
room
needy.
in
These people are
the?
needy.
I just thought I'd throw a curveball.
Oh yeah, this batter is tired though. This batter has not had a long stretch of sleep, so I can't really knock that one out of the park. But
That's a strike right
but
there.
yeah, it is an interesting topic, but I mean we could keep
What-
going with this with the immigration issue. You know, I'm a granddaughter of immigrants. Maybe it's
Yes.
close to home. Jeff is, you know, from way back with his pilgrims. Yeah, you guys, I don't know if we should just call Uncle. Should we call Uncle? The deep state got us.
No.
The deep state is totally disrupting this awesome podcast.
What if you found
This is
out?
a live
What if you
stream
found out
YouTube.
Jeff was the deep state?
That's like sleeping with the enemy. Truly. Like truly.
Yeah, that's
Maybe I'm not
that's
the
like
enemy.
thank you, Dana. That's like sleeping with the enemy. Very good.
It chills down my spine. Chills, Ron.
What kind of topic would that be? Like sleeping with
Which
the
one?
enemy. What?
No.
Relationship
What's wrong with you,
issues.
Ron? Is this your second curveball? You trying to strike Dana out? Because
I shouldn't have woken up. I should just have stayed sleeping.
No.
Ron, did I tell you I'm a pilgrim? I told you that.
Oh, and Jeff, did I tell you that I am a pilgrim?
Oh, you're a pilgrim?
Mm-hmm.
Like an actual pilgrim, like wearing the funny hat and stuff, or like related to the Mayflower.
So some of my family have done some DNA work and they found out some pretty cool, interesting stuff. Where our
Are you also a Native American, like Melissa Warren or
Melissa Warren?
Sorry.
Wow. Yeah.
That's his ex-girlfriend.
Is it really?
So we could tell what's on his mind today.
Wow. Well, yeah.
Elizabeth. You know, Melissa's middle name was Elizabeth.
Let me ask, did she play piano?
I could be wrong though. Let's see. Huh?
Did she play piano?
She did, yes.
Ouch.
But she was poorly pigmented.
Yeah. Can't have it all, huh, Jeff? Can't have it all.
Oh man. Oh
So,
yeah.
well, from what I can tell, the deep state is okay when we talk about this kind of stuff, like
Oh, they
old
love
high
this.
school
They
things,
love this. Yeah.
things like
Idiotic,
that. But not
dumb
you
stuff.
start touching that migration, but
Deep
boom, they
state
shut you
loves
down.
this. Deep state loves. Hey, deep state loves nothing more than this topic.
Anyway.
But so you have DNA that links you to the pilgrims, Ron?
I basically have DNA that links me to.
Native
I'm
Americans.
about, huh?
Native Americans.
No,
No.
I'm probably 78% African American.
Oh, okay. 78%.
No, I was. Gosh, you can't even laugh.
He's
I thought you
he's
might
it's
be,
just
Ron.
Well, Jeff, I mean, no, that's. I guess I could be. I mean, but um, no, I seriously though have come across some interesting things. No, I'm not linked to any pilgrims as far as I know of, but my aunt did discover the boat records from my dad's side of the family coming over from like Germany. So there's some kind of cool stuff there, and not too many generations removed, actually. And they have some pretty interesting stories, kind of cool stuff.
well, you have to go onto Jeff's ancestry site that's free. I guess it's
It's
because of
mine.
the
I own
it's
it.
his, yes. Well, the one that he found. Well, since the Latter-day Saints are really into genealogies, they keep
Yeah.
really good records. So if you have the death date or marriage date or something official of one of your um, ancestors, then you might see if the whole family tree is online. And through that, Jeff found that on one side he had the actual person's name who was on the pilgrim ship,
Wow.
and then on another,
Mayflower, baby.
yeah,
Really?
Mayflower. He is a
Really?
Hey,
he.
Ron,
Yep.
you're going to like this. And most importantly, Barack Obama is my nephew, distant nephew.
Uh, I think you told me that actually one
Oh, okay.
time.
Fine. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but that does sound familiar. I
Okay.
think you said that you were actually related to him. Is that true?
Grandnephew, I think.
Is that
Yes,
true?
yes, yeah, yeah. Yes. As most
Yes.
people seem to overlook it, his mother was European, so it's not surprising.
I yeah, we have a I think on my grandma's side there's a president in our line as well. That's interesting stuff. There's all kinds of like cool stuff that um we've discovered. Well, I'd say we, but really the people that done the work, they discovered about our family, but they've shared with me. So I'm kind of blown away by some of the stuff that I found out.
Well, here's a plug for familysearch.org. When we hang up tonight, find whatever energy you have within you, plug in a few dates of dead people. They have to be dead people. You have to know dead people. You have to know when they were born and died and a little bit of information, but you just plug it in there, connect yourself in, and see if your family line's already up in there. And the good news is, if your family line is there, Ron, there's a good chance that some Latter-day Saints have baptized for your dead relatives.
Well, I know they have.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
as
Yes,
in
sir.
they have because you really believe it, or as in they have, they have because you actually know they have.
I know they have because I know they have because I have family that I have family that are actually some LDS.
Oh, okay. And
So,
they assured you that they've baptized for the dead ancestors.
well, I've heard from other relatives that they have. So I know that is true though. I mean, because they're close enough that you don't just make up stuff like that and decide. Nobody just dreams up, oh, by the way, did you know so and so has been baptizing, these certain relatives from the dead. I mean, you don't wake up one day and decide that you hear that kind of stuff. So I know that that's true.
And
I
so
just
we get a little fringe benefit here from their interesting religious beliefs. We get genealogies. They keep these genealogies and pursue these genealogies and research and all that stuff so that they can make sure everyone throughout all of history has been baptized. And we get to use that information for free. They made it available online so you can check it out. So you might have all kinds of information in there.
I'm what's the website again, please?
FamilySearch.org. I'm advertising for them.
FamilySearch.org.
Yeah, they said I get a free relative if I share.
Okay.
They'll give me another president.
So, Dana,
Yes.
sleeping with the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a would that be an interesting topic? I mean, is that in the realm of even possibilities? I mean, do you think that kind of thing? I mean, you can use that kind of terminology for some interesting discussions, I think, right?
Well,
Yes?
if
No?
you want to just have a show about how to strengthen your marriage, sleeping with the enemy, tips on strengthening your marriage. Yeah, let's do it. I think I've shared before with you that that how people have those life verses.
Oh my gosh.
That like Bible verses that they apply to their life. There's been many a time that you'd be surprised, but Jeff and I will have conflicts at times.
Do you really?
And I think the last year though has been really good. Sometimes Jeff looks at me funny when I say things like that, but I think we're both maybe more mature and like we're better people. It seems very smooth lately, the last year or two, but maybe Jeff has a different opinion. But say in the earlier years, we had lots of little babies and the different stresses that come into married life. But when I would get really mad at him for whatever he would do, the verse I'd repeat to myself is to love your enemies and to pray for those who persecute you. And that would help me in my response to him, to do good to him, even though I was feeling like he was my enemy.
Yeah, no, that's that I think is probably pretty common. I mean,
wait. You sure it wasn't my beloved is mine and I am my beloved's?
No, the verse that's closest to my heart from marriage, or maybe from those years, was love your enemies and pray for those. When the times were bad, there were a lot of great times too, but that verse would hold me in check. It would help me.
Yeah, no, that's I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that doesn't admit, at least honestly, that the relationships have tough times, right? I mean, it's just true. It's just reality of it.
Yeah, Jeff, do you have a Bible verse that would characterize?
It's inappropriate for the airwaves.
You do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities.
Spiritual wickedness in high places. So what about the continual dripping on the roof?
It's the two-word one. The two-word one by
better
Jesus.
to dwell on the corner of a rooftop.
No. 2 words. He wept. That one. Jesus.
No, it's Jesus wept. No? It's not he
Jesus
wept.
Yeah.
It can't be he wept.
I tried.
So sleeping with the enemy, I mean, it could be all about marriage, strengthening your marriage. But you're talking about the deep state, right? Is that what you're saying, or just?
Well, hey, well, I guess let me ask you. I mean, we've been kind of joking around about it, but yeah, let's go into that. That do you believe that there is a deep state? Do you believe that exists, or is that just political jargon? Is that political? But do you believe that there is a deep state?
Well, I guess it depends on what you're talking about. I think when they've have had evidence of a kind of a biased opinion of some of the FBI agents and the people who were in government, in their response to Donald Trump. They weren't neutral. So if you want to talk about, like, I mean, you could show that, right? Oh, the deep state.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The deep state. I think. Do they cut this off? So you can. That's been shown.
You said Trump.
Yeah, I did that. That's what it is. The deep state was triggered.
As soon as you said that, as soon as you started going in, boom.
This is freaky.
Call drop.
But if you mean like a real entrenched, like nefarious web of people who are plotting different things and who are, really involved, and I don't know, bringing us to a one world order, that kind of view. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting theory, but I don't know how you'd prove it or disprove it. It's such a grand conspiracy theory.
Well, yeah, I mean, sorta. I mean, people make a living off of that. I mean, there seems to be plenty of people out there that kind of hold those views, and plenty of people that honestly make a living doing that stuff. A lot of
What
people,
about
actually.
you mean like the lizards?
Yeah. The lizard people, yeah. The
Illuminati.
reptilian.
Yes, the reptilian people who really control everything.
Yeah. So do you guys remember the what were they called? The Sleestaks? The people that were like
you're talking about
remember?
This is such a good show. I mean, I don't understand why we haven't been shut down.
Hey, do you remember?
I know, yeah. When are they going to come for us?
Wait, what show was that? I forgot the name of the show.
Land of the Lost.
Oh man.
Maybe Jeff can pull it.
I tell you, I happen to have a profession where I spend time with youngsters, and whenever I start talking about things that are over 10 years ago, it's so gone, Ron. You're talking like 30 years ago, obscure, weird show to begin with.
Well, yes, but think about it.
And you're making weird noises from that show.
How are we going to connect with our younger listeners, Ron? You got to think the demographics of the listening audience. How are we going to reach the millennials? Come on, Ron.
We are.
That's how.
Okay. Anyway.
So
Dana was going to say something. She should at least say something to the topic of the children in the womb.
Oh, bring it back. Bring it back. Yeah, bring it back in. Reel it back in.
That's like, Jeff, you're throwing a fastball in the ninth inning. You're throwing a fastball in the ninth inning with bases loaded. And the score right now is 3-4.
Okay. Wow, Ron, wow. You really That's amazing. So Dana,
Oh, well, I would just say, as a woman, I can,
mother.
as a mother, I can deeply acknowledge, and I'm well aware that having a child and bearing that child and then giving birth to that child, even if you just stop there, it is a monumental, serious, weighty, extremely personal experience. Like there's no way you can't deny that. It is like one of the most um, fundamentally life-changing experiences that I've ever been through. So, you guys, obviously the arguments are very important. The rational thinking through the morality of the different decisions that people make regarding the child in the womb. Breaking it down like that is very good, but also, there's the experience of the woman, which is, you know, it's huge. It's life changing. It changes so much about your day to day existence when you're pregnant with the child. Um, so while I would be, pretty much like Jeff on the um, pro life side, and I think you too, Ron, right? We're for um, supporting
Mm-hmm.
that life in the womb and validating that
Yeah.
child's existence and protecting it. I'm also well aware that it is a sobering thing to basically demand a woman to bear that child if they become pregnant. It's a weighty thing.
Yes.
It's not light.
Yes.
And it's scary, like
Mm-hmm.
before every birth, maybe not so much the first time, but the subsequent times, like now when I knew what labor was like and I knew what the whole process was like, I would deal with fear going into that because I
Well,
knew that you don't know what's going to happen and that
that's
it
right.
is, painful, that it could turn out wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's, even with all that knowledge, though, I would still say that as a moral people and people who honor the gift of life, that we should seek to protect that child's life and give as much support as possible to a woman with an unplanned pregnancy.
Well, that's the yeah, and that is that last piece there is a very and very important piece as far as I'm concerned, along with education. And what you won't hear most of the time is saying, hey, if we're going to offer choices and you're going to, if you're going to be pro choice, one of those choices shouldn't just be, you know, what they'll call, and I don't like this term, um, for reasons, and I won't get into it now because we'll save it for another discussion. But for reasons Jeff has pointed out in the past, but we'll call it terminated pregnancy. Um, just as important would be the option to uh, carry the child to term, give birth, raise the child, and so having the ability or having that option, I think, is a very important thing too, and that piece I feel like is underrepresented. Well, let's just say this: that piece there doesn't get any representation at all, I feel like. And that is, you know, the support of a mother, being, being a mother and saying, hey, we understand the difficulty in raising a child and the enormous energy that you have to put in to raising just one child, but sometimes multiple children. And um, giving that option and giving support behind that, I think is important too. And that's an important piece of the education, right, that should be offered in these choices that we want to call, right? I mean, if we're talking choice, then you should have choices, right? You shouldn't just have one easy access to one option, and then not have the ability to say, hey, I want to choose um, a different way, a different path on this. Yes, no, you
Yes,
agree?
yes, and I definitely agree. And lately, I've been more and more thinking about living as a Christian and not using the government to fulfill my agenda or what I think the Christian agenda should be. So as you were talking, I was imagining, like, what if Christians lived in such a way where we try to keep our finances and our lifestyle very simple, and with our excess money supported things like that, where there could be a home with somebody who helps manage things, where women who have unplanned pregnancies, who have nobody else to help them, could go and know that they would be supported and their child would be supported, and they'd be
Yeah.
able to mother that infant and raise that infant if they so chose, and that there would be a viable option that was offered by the church, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
completely that, I mean, we could actually do that. The church
Mm-hmm.
could do all sorts of things, and that would be really cool. I would
Would
be really happy to contribute to that. So maybe one day that would be so common where you could know, oh, I need help. I know that the Christians would help me. They help
mm-hmm.
women with unplanned pregnancies.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
help you
No.
all the way through. That would be so cool.
Yes. Yes. And even offer support beyond the infancy, um offer help. And now you get into the idea of social programs, which I don't think anybody, when you break it down, is against. I just think it comes down to a disagreement where that responsibility lies, because there are things and programs that exist out there that address the very thing that the very things that you're addressing, in programs out there in ministries that actually do them pretty effectively, in a very small scale, but they will help women that are going to give birth to a child and they don't have family support, maybe a lot of family support, but they need some extra help. And so there are some programs out there, not a ton of them obviously, but they do work effectively in some instances. And I think, me personally, that when you talk about uh, limited government or more localized government, it seems to me that the more localized idea would be, at least in certain things, as you said, you church, you know, coming out and having a program like this, you could get behind. If you knew it was effective and you knew it was really helping people, that's something. But they're on a very small scale. They're not widely and they're posted either.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I there is one like locally that I had heard about several years ago where they could, on a case by case basis, if a family was willing to open up their home, they were able to do that. But like you said, it was very small scale. Um, but But yeah, that's something that we could do. And I know Jeff and I have not decided on church membership right now. But one of the options I'm really interested in is being part of a house church where I haven't talked about all the details yet with the pastor, but as far as I know, from what I've heard, it seems like they don't emphasize. Um, I mean, they don't want to get a church building. They're really happy, and they will actually prefer meeting at the home. And just think about right off the bat all the money you save on not maintaining this separate building and property. Um, and what could a group of people do with that much, that much savings, right? If they're not, I know for a lot of church budgets that I've seen, the property is a real big expense every year. And with the house church model, well, someone's living in that home anyway. They're already going to be paying for that piece of property. And if you had that money freed up, and also you chose to live simply, which is, a personal challenge. There's so many choices we make with our finances. But if the Christian life was characterized by that simplicity and frugality, then you would probably have some extra money. And that would be so wonderful to be able to contribute to good works, like supporting women in that way, supporting the children in that way.
Would you be interested in taking a deep dive on that topic next week?
If the deep state will not be on our back,
Yeah. Would you be?
The Bible with Ron and Jeff.
Sounds like yes.
Is that the outro?
Very